Chainsaw Man is my favorite piece of fiction of all time. So far in life, I have consumed, read, watched, or even heard everything that has stumbled across my way and provoked my interest even in the slightest way imaginable. Through that, I have discovered what it means to enjoy art through various depictions or sounds, etc. And as I was walking that path, I felt as if my taste turned into my pride. And it's a sort of pride that you want to preserve and keep afloat. And I feel as if through that journey of discovering art, the internet has slowly but surely moved away from remarking what has made an impact on their personal lives and just them as a person in general, to feeling the need of having this one true opinion. I feel as if the best example for that would be top 5 lists or top 10 lists, or just rating things and rating them in comparison to each other in general. But what is more important to me as a person is not what you think is the best per se, but what you think or what you believe to be your favorite. I think that Tyler, the creator, in a strangely comedic way, has sort of put these feelings of mine into words better than I ever could.
Favorite, like, I don't care about people's objective top nothing. Tell me what is your favorite shit, because you learn so much from people. You get context. I want to know why you think Pookie Dookie's second album is your favorite. Oh, I have memories attached to it. My brother did this when I was young, this and that, did that. In track 7, he talks about this. Found out I was going through it. Like, I want to hear that. I don't care about no objective.
And now I'm not here to say anything against top 5 lists, since you'll be seeing that from me as well, so talking against that would be kind of dumb. But in celebration of this thing of favoritism and what we love as human beings that maybe other people don't love, I want to talk about my favorite piece of fiction of all time, which would be Chainsaw Man. Now, this is a work of art that has shaped me into the person I am today, and will be always regarded as my favorite piece of fiction ever. The question is, how the fuck did that even happen? And for that, we must go back to spring 2021, which was in the midst of the COVID pandemic. Now, in that time span, as you all should know, it was pretty difficult to go outside and sort of do the things that you've been doing before. For my friends and I, that would have been going to the local bookstore to discover more manga and maybe find the next new big thing. And while we couldn't do that like every day as we used to, we still managed to go outside at least once a week to meet up and do this shtick of ours and continuing to try finding the, again, big new thing. And the point that I'm getting to is that I believe that I found it the day that I walked into the bookstore and saw this. And I also have it with me right here. This is the first volume of Chainsaw Man in Japanese. A friend of mine gifted that to me, and so thank you for that. And also thank you to my brother who gifted me this little figurine there. Well, it's 2 figurines, but he only gave me 1/2. They're awesome. I love you, bro. You know that. But again, talking about this, and I felt as if in that 6-month lockdown phase, a lot more manga were printed in general, which sounds weird, but this was the time where anime and manga as a whole sort of became more mainstream, and I remember seeing a lot more than I used to in these shelves. And if you go to a local bookstore right now, to our one right here, the shelf is like bigger than this fucking room. It's actually crazy. And that's even though I wasn't ever a buyer. Most of the time I would just write down the names of the serializations in front of me to read them back home online. But this is the exception. And in my opinion, it definitely was a no-brainer because, again, the cover was so interesting, and this is a sort of brutality that's rarely displayed, or was rarely displayed on your fucking first cover at the time. And honestly speaking, the moment I got home and got to read this thing, I was hooked, and I read the entirety of part 1 in that same session. And even the day after that, I read it again. And I think about a week after that, I read it again. And now 4 years later, after reading this thing 3 times in about 3 weeks, I have read this manga a total of 9 times. So if you haven't read Chainsaw Man, you must think that I'm insane. But honestly speaking, I would disagree here. Because This manga was the first time that I have ever encountered art that took a while for me to understand. Because up to that point, anything that I've ever consumed took me about 1, maybe 2 days max to get over it. I was sort of just chewing on it for like a day or two, and after that, I was able to move on to the next best thing. Chainsaw Man, though, stuck like crazy. And I think that there are a lot of reasons for that. I mean, maybe it was the expressive, wild, and at times even unsettling art style that, granted, isn't the best art I've ever seen, but is presented, which means paneled, in such a masterful and, honestly speaking, just beautiful way that it is very easy to get lost to in this tragic but just as badass world. It might also have been the characters that, honestly speaking, stand amongst the greatest cast that I have ever witnessed. I mean, from the protagonist Denji, that is both a mindless manifestation of everything immature, but then again is also just a teenager that is trying to give his life a purpose, but gets beaten and beaten and beaten. Or Aki, the perfect antithesis to Denji that is trying to be this older and mature guy that loves order and routine to serve a purpose worth fighting for. But instead, he slowly but surely gives in to these lighthearted people that show him that he's loved and cared for, and that there's more to life than just easy revenge. Making him turn into this older brother figure that, as time progresses, regrow to love as much as Denji. Or power. The bratty little sister, the greatest of all time. Enough said. Particularly speaking, I think that the way that these characters grow throughout the story is written and presented to absolute perfection. And that's without even talking about the key to the story that, as my synopsis of this piece of art, so far definitely needs. And that would be none other than Makima. I don't want to spoil anything here since this is supposed to be a video, yes, for the people that also love, have read and watched Chainsaw Man and are as excited for me for the movie that's coming out in a week from now, but it's especially for the people that haven't watched Chainsaw Man or are thinking about giving it a try but don't know whether or not they will like it. And to all of you people that have watched season 1 and sort of don't know where the story is supposed to go or if it can even be better than it is right now, you have seen nothing yet. Because honestly speaking, Makima is one of the best characters ever created. And I don't want to get too much into that because, again, spoilers, so I won't, but I'll just leave it at that. So all of these things, they seem as if they can get very chaotic very fast, but instead, it is all packed in a way that seems as if it is in absolute control at all times, no matter what. And that stems from none other than the man and the myth and the legend Tatsuki Fujimoto. Now, I could sit here and talk forever about the genius of his stories through the mix of American and Japanese storytelling, or his other as genius or absolutely fucking insane works. But this isn't the right time nor place to talk about these things, because all of his one-shots are getting adaptations later this year, and even Fire Punch seems to be in the scope of some very big animation studios. So now at the end of this video is not a review and it serves no purpose but to be a love letter to Chainsaw Man Part 1 and its insanity and bold way of depicting these characters. And I know that I could have gone full review mode here to analyze every single nook and cranny of this word that, honestly speaking, would deserve that, but no single word that I would say here would do this piece of art any justice. And therefore, I recommend everyone here to give the manga or the anime at least one shot. And I want to end this video by saying, Happy Chainsaw Man Week, everyone. We are 1 week away from my most anticipated movie, probably of all time. No, I'm lying. This is probably just the excitement talking out of me. But I can't wait to see it. I will definitely review it on this channel. And if you're asking, you haven't talked about Part 2. What about Part 2? it's even better.